David?
Lukey.
Hey, David.
Hey, mate. Yeah,
Dr. Jubb, thank you so
good to.
much.
Yeah,
I'm
great,
so
mate.
glad to connect with you, mate. I always think about you because I tell people all the time you saved my life. Like, I think it's 5 times now. Every time I revisit your work, and I'm like, uh, it, I would only be able to describe it by like, for me, it's my life is so important to me, my health, and the fact that you're such an influence to help me to be like my best self in many areas, not just my physical health, but whole brain functioning and things like that. It's just overall my whole life has improved. Of course, the physical as an athlete, I focus a lot on that, but I connect with different people. Not just
Yeah,
in fitness, but also like sales. And one the lady that I recently, she asked me to ask you a question. She has done Tony Robbins training. I know you have a lot of background into the research behind like brain function that a lot of
yeah, that's right.
speakers use.
Well,
And I
something
thought like,
which distinguishes whole brain functioning from NLP, where that is that what was taught where NLP was just some few things which the most component which cannot yet be considered, which whole brain functioning considers well and truly, is the meta system. Meta meaning over the top of, rather than a sub modality. And that meta modality is the vestibular sense. And so your whole body movement or anyone else's in your language, and if you're in the present, you can. Well, I have an instrument called a Jubb's instrument, which somebody can learn how to read another person's behaviour, and you can learn how to look at transcript to see a whole range of things going on in the transcript, and you could determine whether someone that had a central organised nervous system wrote that, or it was a hodgepodge put together just by AI at the moment. Because the big thing in NLP and things that's like this is that the vestibular sense, which is the sense of integration, is the poorest researched bit. But that I could see where it was, and this is something a great contribution to the area, because it's really the vestibular sense which I've been educating people about for a long time, back since the late 70s. And because of exercise physiology and things, and looking at how to look at behavior itself, and the neurology that was within this all comes along to come to be. And today you can hear and see quite a bit there, where if you have copy for anything, it should be wise that you would consider, using active language, and you're knowing how to use embedded command, but also every other pattern to some advantage and benefit. Yes? So the listener can be attaching to her or his ongoing experience something is really meaningful more for the listener. So you're using listen speech as you can, right? So it's like it's not generated from yourself, but it's a generation that's coming from the listener itself. So it's a very different sort of a speech.
right. I've heard you say that before. So it's like, are we thinking? Is this coming from beyond our body, or it's like the language is coming from inside the physical? Like when you use your
Okay, so
instrument, you
well,
can
first,
hear it.
matter doesn't just fall off in a three-dimensional state, but you've to go into other dimension. A fourth dimension is plasma, which everything is composed of. If you go all the way down to a JC quantity, you're going down to 10 to the minus 71 in centimeters squared cubed, and you've got a jubbit, which is a shape, which is a scalar shape, which is a triovoid shape, which has got a dimension exact. And it's a residuum, or JC quantity, is where you've got two light waves that are superimposed, and you have a fractal, which is one's divided by the other, and the one on top that you're dividing is plus or minus, and so you've got the smallest unit that is, and that's what a JC quantum is, I just explained. That's the smallest pixelated dot in space, which is solid conduction, you see, yeah? And that's what inverse gravity and beetles and things can get a jump and lift in flight and stuff, you know. Yes. But the vestibular sense is when you're going forward, back, up, down, in, out, whether you're associated towards something like the present or dissociated, whether you're congruent, because there's a parallel processedness, and how the vestibular sense is organized, that paralleledness where processing is, and then integration itself is integration and flow between the parts, and associatedness is how present are you versus, you know, you're not really here perhaps. And wakefulness is really a complex phenomenon, and there's lots of bits go into it, isn't it? Because like where somebody wakes up, it can take a moment for the world to slowly have crept in, but that world that somebody has is the world. That's the world that they have within themselves. And so as much as what that world is really in reality and what the world is inside you, you know, matched, it's sort of like you've got a balanced sense of being. And I was witness your birth, you see. I is in the fourth dimension, like 4D printed from all of us who are living. And all of us who are living, we have I, and so that I is in the ether, which is an adjacent quanta. And this witnesses your birth. And so this is eternal because it's as empty as space is, you see. And that's I. And am, when you look around, is all the planets and celestial bodies and all part of your own self. And so when somebody examines where their body is, you'll see that we have a body that's beyond our own body. And so that's so important. Everybody could be aware more of what this is. And so suddenly, you know, everybody becomes no body more, and rather than trying to be somebody, you see. But where emptiness is inside, somebody could be in the present, can't they? Because it's unwrapped. And if you're in not thinking, you're in the moment, well and truly, because you're the most receptive, you see, yes? And so awareness is about how receptive you are to pattern, and that awareness is way over the top of what you're conscious of. Or you could explain this awareness is way more than what's inexplicable. And so awareness is beyond the things that are seen someone has, and beyond things felt as well, see. So someone could be taken to these realms, and awareness is over the top of sleep. So sleep really is just when memory, there is no association between memory anymore. So that's a state in neurology. Deep sleep, like death, somebody just falls asleep. And so then there's dreaming, and that's sort of like a slight spindling of memory, but not really loose, but strung just in, yes. So that these two states, deep sleep and dreaming, is sort of limited. And now wakefulness is pretty limited too. Awareness is over the top of these three states. Wakefulness itself is only 7 plus or minus 2 chunks of information in any one period of time, so it's sort of limited. And what's in those channels below that your random phoneme generator has picked from word, and what weightedness is, where the word is and things. The vestibular sense is one of the primary organs that sets that weight. And so, and what wordedness is that relate to this, you see, yes, emotion and whole body movement. So to give you an example, somebody was playing out of their brain, meaning they weren't thinking while they were doing something. And when anybody is an exceptional brain function, you don't have any inhibitory centers of your brain functioning. Anyway, okay, it's just something really small. Maybe what's a good question?
Oh, mate, so amazing. I always listen multiple times to really get, and I know there's so much more to learn. That question was for me because I I do watch a lot of try to watch a lot of educational videos and just some of the topics that interest me. Besides, my physical health, I think there's something about when you speak, I definitely feel like it's a type of nutrition. So that just to ask one more question about it, is it this tri-oval shape? Is that doing something kind of like the beetle to my consciousness, or sorry, my brainwaves?
Yeah. If you could imagine that a shape fits into space, and so that shape, there is no, it's blacked out. Let's say if it was black shape, and then you put it into space, it would black everything out completely because it's the shape that fits in space. There's not any another shape that fits in space. You see, there's not another shape that can, as a scalar shape, make all the different sorts of shoulders and manifold and smooth contour versus different types of surface and things than one scalar shape. Just the same as if you fit 351 degrees into a circle, which is good because now you can fit exact 26 divisions, and it fits exact, you see. So this is what a JC quanta is about. It's more to do with resonance itself and a grand unified totality versus a theory. And so it's just based in a quanta. And so that's kind of would be my field for quite some time before I saw that how could I talk to anybody in the field too much about it, because most of these people were a bit more nerdy, studying math and things, but I couldn't really have a conversation with a normal person. So, but there's so many things which this applies to, it's unbelievable, including math itself and then the logarithm that we have inside, which we teach people, yeah?
Okay.
Yeah, and a logarithm, which is an all or nothing phenomenon. And so part of the reason why you would put things in terms of something to get passed on, isn't it? And so where something is anchored, what does it do? But did it cause integration, what was anchored, that was recalled so that it's automatic afterward, and so you no longer feel whatever it was, which was stress, but you've got more relaxed shoulders, a more relaxed tummy, and something is quietening everything down more. But could it be that, like, where we could hear how much is a verb is used, and what is going on where things are now, this is ever more present, of course. And so how somebody using their clauses of time to complete things where things are, but some skill can be useful more where someone's very good at clauses of time and they're very good at associating someone to a subject matter and dissociating them away from something and this sort of thing by using direction, yes? And so the vestibular sense is your whole body movement of direction. And so always association is because you're going forward and toward things, which is pleasurable and happiness, and you get whole brain functioning as a result of it because the septal region fires as you feel good and pleasant, and it connects you limbic region, which is the emotional center of your brain, to the frontal cortex, and your frontal cortex is only grown out of anatomy implicating interest. So where somebody languages something you can hear, if you can get agreement, and if they're focused on agreement, then they're in the frontal cortex. If somebody's not focused on getting agreement, they're not in their frontal cortex. And so the faculty to inspire creative influence in the future could be not so much there. It's just a little bit like information coming in down at an ankle level, which is corporate, and it's just about sales of weapons or something like that, but it's not really got to do with lives in Gaza or lives in Ukraine and the lives of people where they all put at stake. And isn't it everybody is put at stake, you see, because of some condition. And how could somebody say that a condition exists for others but not for you or I? It's like immediate seek agreement because neurology shows that you're in whole brain functioning. And if somebody's not seeking agreement with their adversary, it absolutely shows that they're not in their frontal cortex. So these are patterns which somebody can learn how to do because, like, many have been hardwired for something else, and that's not the path of least resistance whatsoever, you see, yeah? And grovelness, everybody would agree, is a sword, and that's the bloodiest, most useless, ridiculous thing, isn't it? Yes, it is. It means just grovel, grovel. But where's your heart, and where's your Ministry Council that's right there in Palestine, Israel, and places which should be wise that it is? So you've got public opinion coming through and assisting policy made, and so there you've got news, which is all about we the people and the rights that you and I have, yes, rather than in just an employee's rights, which is wrong. That's a demonocracy where somebody's just rights have been abridged to be under a corporate contract, and so now they're only being treated as a corporate being, and you're not a corporation. What does that mean? It means that you're just being treated like a number, like a chair, or like a utility company, and that's communism outright of itself. And fascism is the definition of mixing up the living with the dead. Yeah, so you can't mix those two things up where any service is done. That's wrong. And when you have it like that, you've got a mess, huge. Why? Because you've got something which doesn't have any central organised nervous system whatsoever above you and I who do. And so this is ridiculous. Yes? So once you could learn a little bit more about whole brain functioning and this sort of thing, you could see where somebody is framing things positively, where they focus on the greater good, where is this so? Or is it not in reality, like somebody says it was, it would be, it might be, but where's is? Please. Is has to be. All the contracts in the world are null and void because is doesn't exist. Also, too, all the contracts just about should be fixed up because why? They all should have a proper lawful name, not a legal name for it where anything is, and just a fiction. Okay? Because that's just lying through the fence, which is abide by law. It's not of, which is international law, and it's not from, which is the highest law, and that's from the land. And there's only one court, and that's the Supreme Court, and that's we the people. That's not a body of people that were put together from that wasn't selected. No, we never selected any of those people, and then elected also is not a good thing, is it? But what the system is, we should cherish where we are and to grow from this and to change things toward a better future, and we can have a positive inductive currency, and that's how it should be. And you're the real estate, not gold, not anything else. And nobody could own your real estate, okay? Only in a corporate fictional world somebody could have done something like this, but you and I, we can have a grand feast, and that's the meetings that can happen all over the earth where administrative councils meet where they should, because that's what fits above the state of your nation, above the legislative assembly of that state. And it's we the people that fit there, yes? And so how about learning a bit more about this, I'd say.
Ooh, I'm just sitting here nodding my head. Thank you so much for that, David. Makes me feel empowered. I'm really looking forward to all that. And I know that you've said it before that um, people. What was it? The most powerful thing for people to heal is actually short-term hypnotherapy, and that's why I'm glad that we spoke about
Okay,
that
Jubb.
stuff.
Yes, because first it is, as you just said, people are already hypnotized in some state, and everybody is. You, I, anybody, all is. No, there's not a matter that somebody isn't. Okay, so you could call it something else, but why not just call it induction? Because that maybe is how you're inducted, how anybody's inducted. But induction is how are you being hypnotized? Yes. And so what does it mean? It means there's a lot of things that could be so stubborn, matter of fact, that's so good for you that you're great at with, and you apply all your meditative skills toward what's excellent as much as you can and grow, and you pick up 10, 20, 30 things every day and brand new. And imagine if you did this for some 30, 40 years, 50 years, yes? Would you become excellent at what you do? Yes, you would. And how about being like an Olympic athlete? We just saw the Olympic Games and athletes and things. So doesn't it ever remind you of such a great performance? And why not be athletic with your wordedness, with your cognition, and be cared to help to pass a good message on to people that could help cause everybody to live life more abundantly, eh?
Oh yeah. uh, yeah, I could probably come up with a bunch more questions. I know there's a lot of this info in the Little Red Book and the Red
Oh,
Sleeper.
well, some of the things which is to do with our program relate to raising the voltage of your blood from 1.5 volts, which it goes up to with Life Hydrate, and then other product that we have can raise it to around 4. You've got various substance which is high-powered South positive and high-powered North negative, and the difference between the two, you've got such a differential, you can have up to 4 volts with various things. So if you've got proper voltage, you've got an antiseptic, and you can clean the blood within an hour or so, and there's nothing in the blood after that, and there can't be much in the body. It goes after everything pretty much. It sort of sterilizes the glycopacking and the cells themselves and switches aerobic glycolysis off in the cytoplasm, and which is a not a productive type of energy, and it switches everything back to efficient energy, which is oxidative metabolism. And so there's only just some urea molecules, which is something which I've investigated, which is actually on a DNA level that actually impacts your body, which is only about 1 part per million. It's really incredible, matter of fact. And it comes as a molecule from when everybody suffered and we all went extinct, basically, where mass extinction was, and sulfur, hydrogen, and sulfur dioxygenase and hydrogen chloride dioxygenase, and these molecules and things adapted, our body did, to a sense of being triggered when something goes on like that, which is calamitous. But you only have to have 1 part per million in your body, and it's going to switch your whole body back, like your DNA gets turned off for aerobic glycolysis. So you've got a raised voltage right there where the mitochondria is, because you've got substance that actually is tapping in some energy from the B field. And so it's like a nitrogenated terpenated compound, and because it's got an element that's in it, like one of the noble elements, it's extremely unusual, called a transitional element. And those elements on the periodic chart are really incredible because they've got one end of them is really, really fine, and the other end so expanded, and it's like it's got this sort of a structure which is incredible, matter of fact. And when you combine that with a terpenated molecule, you can nitrogenated, it produces energy from the blue wave of the sky, yes? And it comes in there fierce. If you wear red, it phase conjugates with red, lets the blue in fiercely, and the blue activates these nitrogenated terpenated compounds, which gives you 4 volts of energy, some of it. Like, so for instance, like you've got car batteries, which are made out of what? Lithium. Yes, why? Because they're such sponges for north negative and ease of ability to give them off. And what else? Well, in our body, we've got fluorine, hey, and in this formula, things are made in microsecond and have an effect. So you've got substances which can give you 4 volts at a micro level, and it smacks and cleans and knocks out every heavy metal and every foreign protein, because even foreign protein can't survive that. Yeah, and like the amber glycolic, for instance, it takes some 1.5 years or more to make that. And it's got a molecule, like I was talking about, that can wake you up from a coma. Yeah, right. And it's made from amberine from trees and aloe vera skin and white gold and thyme and life colloid enzyme.
Wow.
So it's micronized, yeah. So anyway. So most people have a condition where aromatic amino acid is missing because food is cooked all out, and so the amino acid is highly heat sensitive. So most don't have B17 to be transmutated into cobalamin, which it is in the body in the last 2-3 inches of your jejunum, where it enters into the ileum. So right there, B12 is made cobalamin, but it only can be because amygdalin was being able to be brought in, and that's found in 1,700 different fruits and vegetables and things, but it's very heat unstable, and so you can imagine most people really eating a lot of dead food, and they miss that amino acid. So now, it's a primary amino acid that transports minerals and gives you a chloride channel in your membrane, and gives you a channel to transport bicarb as well. And these are extreme north negative element, and so that becomes missing a little bit in the membrane, and that's what cystic fibrosis is. I mean, and then we talk a bit how that gets all caused, from stone and from breath not correct where sleep is, and from acid food, and from dead food, and from no aromatic amino acid, and so suddenly somebody can't transport sodium, and what happens is sodium gets excreted to the outside of the cell, and cortisol causes calcium to also be excreted because it's so got inside the cell and things, and so the mucus becomes sticky mucus, and that sticky mucus over endothelial cells then suddenly less than allows proper oxygenation of the body and things, and that's what cystic fibrosis is basically, but that's what most conditions that people have actually, yes? And so it's a great one to learn a bit about, and there's some good podcasts that you've done on this topic, which it's really great. Yeah, we've done together.
Oh man, I'm honored. I just thought of something. Is this the beginning of like what they would call adhesions in the fascia?
Stone always forms because when calcium is when phosphate is in excess, it's like just there, and it's really very strong south positive, you see, yes? And because it wants to accept a north negative where calcium is carrying a north negative, it sticks to itself. And no matter what, its substance itself wants to stick calcium to itself. And so it forms layer upon layer. And what is that? That's nano life colloid as tiny, small, the smallest life that form into bone and stone, and they form into colony of stone, and that stone forms in the pancreas and forms all through the body, and that you can take a stick and run it up and down the arm, and you can see all the stone that you have in your body, and that stone is substance which you should get dissolved, yeah? And then when you dissolve this, when you do Jubb cell rejuvenation, what are you doing? You are getting back your body, getting rid of stone, yeah? So black gold is something that could be rubbed onto any injury, and suddenly you've got microcirculation and you've got tissue going back there. You've got people who they can't develop their legs, and they get big up top and muscular and things, but when you look down, you see like chicken legs. And so now, yeah, exactly. And so if they scrape, they can get back circulation to their legs. You see? If they stop the substance which is called mucus, they can get back circulation to your legs, because otherwise they've got a syndrome which is always causing POTS. It's a postural orthostatic tension syndrome where blood is shunted from the legs to get it to keep it in the brain. And various food that somebody eats, like complex carbs and protein combined, oh my God, that's cystic fibrosis. You see, yeah, straight up. There's just no way our pancreas can manage any of that at all. Never, ever, ever in the history of itself could ever have managed anything like it. Yeah. So somebody need to learn a bit more about live food, which is really great. Smorgasbord is delicious. And there's so many things you could do. It's outrageous. It's the best sort of food you could have in the world. Why? Because it's got enzymes in it. Plus, it's got low methionine and low phosphate. And that's like a key. Yeah, so things are made more easy to digest and things. It's plant-based, so anyway.
Yeah, so I just in my life, if I could touch 1% of your knowledge, I think I'd be a genius. But I was thinking like looking at people and myself too, because I have water on my legs, and I'm like, it's got to be from inflammation in the two sides of the intestines there.
Okay, so when we have edema, that edema always happens because of training where you lost mineral for a moment, and that because mineral was lost in the blood, a various range of things occurred. Fibrin and globulin escaped into the interstitial space, and that draws water in as well. And then because inflammation exists a bit because of edema, because not enough minerals are holding water in the blood. So when minerals are in the blood, they will hold more water in the blood, and you'll hold more water in the system vascular wise. And when we don't have the right sodium, for instance, that sodium could excrete too, and that gets into the interstitial space and draws water to itself. But the absolute condition of edema is where water has no longer been able to remain compartmentalized because sodium chloride isn't managed as proper in the blood to hold water within the blood. And so it's the biggest thing that we do where we sweat, where we work out, where we do things, and where we would really just excel where something is. You take yourself to a state of somewhat dehydration, and now you've got heat shock protein and cold shock protein, which actually stimulates more health and more capacity for your whole self to function even more. So you've got a greater fitness. So now the same thing when you burn hard, when you train, you're going to have heat. That's right. And it's the same heat as like in a sauna, basic, like really you're taking it up like a far infrared sauna or something like this. So you're taking your body to extreme where that extreme assists to cause over time a greater fitness built up, yes? And the same with hot, cold, hot, cold. But when you're doing anything that's like this, that you're training as an athlete, it's a certain thing that, but even if you're not, and you've done things overboard a bit, it always can cause edema. And what could you notice if you flew somewhere, but you look down and you see your ankles have swollen more? Well, that's an example of you having salt that's gone into the interstitial space and brought water in with it as well. And you've got the wrong salt in your body. You're eating a lot of rock salt, which is wrong. You don't eat any rock salt at all, and not even any wallboard plaster either, which is in all the milks and stuff, yeah? Because now you're going to save your pancreas. Because all the milks that have got calcium carbonate in it is like putting wallboard plaster in there.
Yeah,
Anyway,
and then
something to think about.
people
Something to...
who don't even train, I noticed like a lot of people have pear-shaped bodies, and I was like, if that's kind of like a market for that we could help a lot of people solve something that. Now, obviously, I have a different attention to fitness, but just overall, like you said, it's overall condition that people have. Is this basically cystic fibrosis and water on the legs? Is it all the same cause
Yeah,
of everything?
so we sort of, men and women have two shapes, but both women could have both shapes and men could have both shapes too. But overall, women have fat deposit which causes cells to be absorbed of cortisol from inflammation in the gut, and then that gets stored around the thighs and the back of the arms mostly, and the butt and the thighs, and it's all deposited there. And so this pretty much actually causes what's called, this is excessive estrogens, and it always causes a pear shape, like you said. The other shape is called apple, and it's where somebody's just appled out. They've got cortisol belly. Cortisol belly is a belly that hangs, and the extraneous cortisol that's gone on in somebody's life also causes a humpy type of condition behind their back, between the shoulders. Yeah, so cortisol really is not a good thing per se, not excessive cortisol. It should not be. It's sort of really more calm collectedness, actualness of actually thousandths of a second recall and reflex and things to slow something down to a thousandth of a second, almost, even more. But somebody could read all the subtle little things going on where most people can't. It's like, why? Well, because they're not present, you see. So who's present more? They're going to notice everything, aren't they? Yes. And somebody's doesn't need to notice anything because they may have a strategy and nothing's going to affect them. Yes, because they have an attitude. So that's a big difference, isn't it, between all of us? It's like we all are similar, everything, except for our attitude inside about things and our attention and focus and this thing. Yes? And so where somebody chooses a path to be on that's got a heart in it, that's really good. But technology that's being used to find people and cause their life to be suffered, where things are in Gaza and places like that where it's going on in war, what should the reason be behind all that technology being used this way? That's so wrong. And how is it that people far away could be the ones that are controlling these little drones and what have you, and then maybe not even in the nation or anywhere? They're somewhere hired away and private companies doing things, and it's just heartless, not right, wrong. Everybody should look at that. It's just really disgusting and wrong. But something is right, and we should be focused on what right is, to go right, to have your right, to feel right in your own self, But that's your title, and the title is Woo Man. That's our title as our species, see? Yeah. So, yeah, that's right. So, species, Woo Man, can't be defined. Pretty stupid that people are going to say, oh, but you could ask someone to define it because they could come to realise that you can't. Good. Why? Well, because this is who is behind all the words that you use, and this is who's behind all the corporate system below. Yes? And that's you and I, actually. So could we talk good that we could care and value where people are? And there are things which is of value to keep where the value is, and value up to what higher value need to be. And this is you being really good at conflict and stuff. And because you're valuing things. So it's sort of really about valuing up and educating things and changing the value that somebody had that was conflict to come back up to the proper value it should be, yes? But none of that has to be if you've got we the people in charge, not corporate level, down at the ankle, which is a bye-bye law and can't be using a word from whatsoever.
I value your time so much. I'm sorry I took what was supposed to be a consult for the lady I mentioned in the beginning. I just get so interested in what you're saying. I do want to learn more. I can't wait. But I do believe that the base program that we do is going to help regardless. So I'm glad that you gave us so much of that information. And so the specific thing that is going on is called sarcoidosis.
Yeah.
Have you heard of sarcoidosis, and how
Well,
can we help that?
It's really like a cystic fibrotic condition of tissue, of nerve and sinew and things, and tightening up of condition of things because no silica is left much in the body and things. And I just would only just want to just say, because like for everything that goes on where somebody is, they're going to call it by a condition, various symptoms. So sarcoidosis, for instance, but all cystic fibrotic types of conditions relate to lots of tissue, and so where pain is really in their eyes sometimes, where someone has that, or they have a bit of fatigue, they could have itchiness and redness of the eyes, and they could have always a bit of a felt shortness of breath, a bit. They could have rashes appear more and lumps appear as different types of things. Piles can be where someone sits, and otherwise various sorts of dermatotic types of inflammation and conditions could be. But visual, blurred vision and sensitivity to things where light is, it always is because of excessive pigment. It always is because someone's not breathing through their nose like they should. It always is because someone has had high phosphate and they've got to stop the high phosphate and stop methionine food. And it always is because someone needs an aromatic amino acid to assist to help correct things and stay away from all rock salts, yes? And stay away from heavy carbohydrate and protein combined, because that's not so good for what this condition is. But otherwise you're going to rest the pancreas and the adrenal gland and help heal all of this up, basically. It can cause conditions of the lungs because it's so sticky, mucused out, and the lungs can't really oxygenate like they should. And, you've got your lymph nodes also, which generally, like for the lung and where your lymph is, sarcoidosis is really sort of a bit of a disease that could be given that label. And now, what do you know about what's common with most of these conditions where people have inflammation of the gut. I mean, what's the reason why certain people of origin have three times more likely to be able to be got of such? Because it's that, some of us have got to build up a bit of a tolerance and others don't have any whatsoever to various toxins of the dead food that people are bringing in from animal flesh and what have you, and all the dead food. But symptoms of like sarcoidosis and things really doesn't exist where somebody eats live food. It doesn't. It could be cleared away that you could learn how to do this. See? Yes? So why not get back your proper fitness and get some osmolytic element, nutrient that could help, and various things can help turn things around. But it's typical that if you listen into the cystic fibrosis tape, you're going to learn how a channel that transports a chloride molecule and a bicarb element through your membrane can be missing, and that causes a very sticky type of mucus type of condition, and that's never not part of sarcoidosis where the body is. So commonly, like I just said, it can affect more the lungs and things, and you can see these symptoms a bit where the eyes are and stuff like we started to talk about. But you've got different stages of things, haven't you? And stages of location where these granulomas start to exist, where thickened cells are and things, and lungs unable to be able to have proper oxygenation. So take some life colloid, life hydrate, and unstick the platelets of blood and things, and move back more toward life food and clean out the stone from your body, and your skin and your eyes all and organs all can improve quite incredible. And the liver, and the spleen and the duodenum and especially the bronchial gland start to function again. And now the Harderian gland around your eyes will function as well. Okay? And so you can heal this condition up. I would look into Jubb cell rejuvenation.
Beauty. I told my friend who introduced me to the person with sarcoidosis, if she would come visit on, say, just as an example, a Sunday, we could send her back with a whole week, because she lives in another state, a week's worth of food. And she said she'd be interested, because I knew that the eating and
Anyway,
cleansing will help.
it's really important condition that could be turned around, all right? It's really a severe condition otherwise, and it's hospitalised and all that sort of thing. It's like what goes on where that is a lot of rock salt. How bad is that? Do people know how bad rock salt is? It's really not right. Sorry. All the salt that comes from inland and what have you is not a proper salt. Look into what's amphoteric and amphiphilic and got permittivity. That's got alchemical value, and that's a salt from the ocean. But severe fatigue could be because somebody really has consumed a lot of rock salt and stuff, and it's all got into the body and inflamed and caused stone, and that has to all be dissolved. Otherwise, fatigue and disabledness, no matter where somebody is, and they would have a loss of work and life and what have you. But could you live life more abundantly by tuning in and actually getting rid of all the cell waste, by raising albumin, by getting your blood to be hygienic? That's what makes sense, and that's what you should do, and that gives you chance to heal. But somebody has to be more desperate, don't they? Because they've really got to think, I really need something, because that's called learning level 1. That means, geez, I need to learn something. And what most people are called 0 level learning. And what's that mean? It's I'm comfortable where I am. Thank you so much. It's like, I feel fine. And so that's called 0 level learning. There's 3 other levels of learning above learning level 1, but you only get there because you go, I think I need to learn something. See? Yeah? But at some point we should, another show maybe, but we should talk about this all or nothing phenomenon, because it's really vital. You've got to have 78% of your nervous system behind something, and you have 22% of yourself against, and it'll still go forward. But at 23% against, and it's not going to go forward. You see, yeah? It's an all or nothing phenomenon, matter of fact. So providing you have less than 22% more against something, it's still going to go forward. But if you've got more higher than that, it's in a logarithm, and it's not going to get passed on.
I've heard you say that before, but today is the first day it registered that it's all or nothing. I always...
it's an action potential. You only can get an action potential to pass on to your muscle from your brain, that you've got acetylcholine in your brain and your body, and acetylcholinesterase, which is the primary neurotransmitter that connects your brain to your muscle. And so, there's things as our program actually helps that, like the ECT, all of our aromatic herbal compounds, which is cold processed, are the best in the world because, you're paying attention to the stereoscopic structure so that you've really got a three-dimensional structure that's the same as nature, unaltered. So you don't use heat or friction, you see, yeah? So it's like sixth generation sort of formula.
One of the advantages or benefits of working with people like this, I don't know that I would be so dedicated to natural health if it wasn't for another person's. Like we work as a team, and definitely want to get some of this amber
Yeah,
glycolic for
so
myself.
you should let everybody know that the more that you develop a proper group speech, otherwise you've got others and their group speech, and it's not the same culture whatsoever. You see, yes. And so it's sort of really more that you put this word out and others do too, and that you can help everyone move more toward a better future for all of us. Yeah, because otherwise modern medicine is the art to keep people being kept amused while nature's taking its course. Yeah. And
Yeah,
then religion is the submission to authority for the sake of certainty. And so these are all things which could be just a bit of dogma, you see.
when you said it's gonna kind of give me the energy to get past or to kick off a healing, I was like, wow, so
Yes, it
looking forward to
purges
that.
conditions from the body. It purges them. It clears things away. Right. Yeah, it's quite remarkable. Very few things are purgative, but this is a very good purgative. Fantastic. Yeah. And it can be mild or strong, depending on how much that you have a bit of it and things. Yeah, but it lasts 3 weeks in the body, and most things don't last 3 hours or more because they're all just got collected by the liver and finish up there. But this doesn't. You see, yes.
And the nutritional cleansing is 3 weeks at a time, right?
The more that somebody cleanses, and then you let go of the flushes because that's all. But then you're keeping a program which you've learned, and you keep it for the rest of your life this way. So you do calorie restriction. So you really, I could think I've not eaten anything for a week or more. So not anything much. It's like nothing. You see, so just a drink or something. That's it. That's all that's needed. Basic. And could somebody be where the heat is and heat day and night, and you develop a bit of a fitness for that, yeah? And then maybe also cold too, but you're going to live a longer life if you actually subject your body a bit more to things that's like this, and you fast while you do it. Yeah? You do calorie restriction. I mean, everybody could do calorie restriction, but they should learn what have they done and what are they doing so they could move more toward live food and come to have something which is sustainable for all of us, which live food is sustainable, where no other food really is, because it doesn't cause shade, doesn't cause florification, and doesn't promote trees, doesn't promote bees. Live food does.
Nice. It hasn't been easy, to be honest, to be so disciplined and dedicated. But I always tell people, I'm not doing it just for fun. I'm doing it because it works. And I'm really
Yes,
happy to be able to help people just like you did when I first met you in New York City, and you had the most amazing food ever. We used to drive out just to get a slice of strawberry cake, and
yes,
I love making food for people, and then just like get them to tell you
yeah.
back that
Yeah,
they
that's
feel way
right.
better.
I remember lots of people benefited, and how good was it? Incredible. And when we got closed, of course, a different sort of people got benefited. So some benefit always was where anything was, where this was so incredible, where it is. Yeah. So it's somebody benefits from what this is. Yeah. So that's the most important thing you could think of, really. And what could somebody do to pull their forwardness toward people feeling peace in themselves? And what's said that causes your mind to have fallen more quiet is worth 10,000 other things, Lukey. Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
right. So I'm gonna
yeah.
definitely order some amber glycolic, life hydrate. Was there a third one, life colloid, or that's all in one? I forgot.
The life colloid is, I'm not sure where we got some still there, but that's such an incredible substance. I only was able to make the life hydrate because I make that with the life colloid. I have an enzyme there to make sphingosine and ceramide to make tiny platforms that will go across the tongue, right across a cell membrane in an osmolytic state, meaning a neutral state, which then it's got amphoteric, so it can change its polarity once it's inside the cell. Yeah. So enzymatic nutrient, which is cold processed and things, it's really what life is supposed to be about. And life food and Jubb cell rejuvenation all is really just about life itself. And life begets life and death begets death.
Thank you so much. I really feel honored and fortunate to be able to kind of model your program. You know, as flawed as I am, it's the best thing I've ever done. I want to thank you so much, David, for giving me giving everybody your work and your time and your energy. It's just the best ever.
Yeah, well, how someone is where you are, where you could be, to have rapport, where people are to pace a subject to be able to have rapport and see that interest is where things are. But, like, is it a timedness where something is to be brought up, where something could be where maybe that sometimes the neutral ground more is better, that something is where, of course it is always. Somebody's in whole brain functioning, they're really totally with interest and they're always open, and you're really easy able to explain what the other person's view is. How good is that? That's so fantastic. Because now here's somebody who's so listening. God help us, they can help everybody where we are. Yes? And how about all of us start to begin to do things that's like this? Because all polarized language is frozen logos, and there's no time and now for in the world where 90 seconds before doom is, where people just be now focused more on framing things positively and ask others to do the same thing, and focus and just see where anybody is in searching for agreement to get agreement and to stop conflict. If they're not, hey, that's wrong and unethical. Stop. You see, yes? In your home, in your domestic life, wherever, yes? And international as well. But it's we the people that fits above the legislative assembly, and all of us should be active more where that hasn't been, has it? And where's the enemy? You and I, because we none of us are internally regulated like we should be, yes? And let's get on together. Do this inside and do this outside too. And so, yeah, you've got unity consciousness versus a lot of frozen logos.
I know what you mean. As much as I think it's something that I have to learn. I also know that I think healing my my whole body, my gut and my gut brain, it will be kind of a all together thing. My brain and body healing at the same time, and my language and my behavior. I think it's always just gonna get cleaned up from the inside out, and then also at the same time by learning and studying whole brain functioning and re-listening to the lectures and doing the paperwork. It's like all together holistic or whole brain whole uh, uh unity, the grand unified I'm gonna say
Grand
theory of
unified
something.
totality.
Totality. I always forget.
Yeah, so like I would reiterate what you just said, which is really fantastic because it's a meditation. It's an outward lived, inward meditation that you have, which is standing, walking, living, sleeping, sitting, and ongoing. And this is a real meditation. You don't have to go somewhere to have this. You don't have to turn that on at some time. This is ongoing where you are non-stop, and you focus on people who are teachers and people who you admire and people who could give things to you to learn, to grow where things are, and open everything up, that people could all be more living where grace is, and we could be positively inducted, because the money that's spent on weaponry is completely wrong. It's wrong that we could continue to uphold the past, which you can't under negative economic inductance, and only having left things to be at a corporate level and not have any proper system like we should, which we do have. It's just like, let's get busy where this is, because people should be listening to have public policy coming from the public itself and not corporate. And such a news is just a horror, because it's just a subject matter, got nothing to do with anything about life at all. It's just got to do with somebody advertising for their own selves and talking about corporation, period. And what sort of news is that? It's not a proper news, is it? No, because where's the human interest gone in all of that? There's none. And so what is it? It's just designed to have resistance transfer. There is no such thing as any conspiracy. It's just such a ridiculous idea. Why would somebody need a conspiracy when you have one monopoly? Okay? You have a criminal banking cartel of one world order, and that's a monopoly. And so nobody needs a conspiracy. Sorry. You know, and why is that not what's talked about? Should be. Why shouldn't it, eh? And where is that? That's you and I sitting on our duff like Humpty Dumpty, yes? Sitting on a wall and not having done anything. Because why? Well, because the induction was that you didn't know who's above the Legislative Assembly, who's in charge, who's the chain of command. That's we the people. And so it's only just that an Article 3 or Article 4 court is what is it should be, because that's above contract, of course, and that's above governance, okay? And that's the one group that sits and owns the debt and the credit, both sides. The debt is a credit to these people that sit, and they're ministerial visitors with each other, and this is the highest Supreme Court, not a corporate Supreme Court, yeah? Because it's supreme because it's selected by we the people. It's not been by some political pact which has just come from big donors and then manipulating whoever the person is at their date of a candy. They have a candy date, and it's sort of a candified date. These things are not proper words, honest. But it could be. But if it would be selected, and elected is not selected. No. That's completely wrong. Sorry. You've got to pick something just like you pick it from a bloody bin, honest to God. Yeah? When you go pick something like a piece of fruit, what do? You select a piece of fruit. That's right. You don't elect. Elect is like goodbye, something over the hill will take form. Huh. No, it should be verified. Nothing else short of it. Simple, straight up. Yeah? And so it should be vote for money, currency, and voting for an arm, and arming, and ALM, and like it's an alliance or law movement, but it also is a unit of currency that represents a JC quanta in an hour of work done. And in a JC quanta, you've got three elements, noble elements, that everything is based upon. And you've got time to be kept, you've got length, and you've got mass. You see, so you've got various elements that are noble elements, which can give us a future incredible, because they're the hardest elements, they're the elements which are most lustrous, last a long time and not wear out, and this sort of thing, and have very unusual properties and things as well. So, but we live in a world where we can have clean energy, and we should. You see, yes. So it's just, what do you decide? What do you want? And where's the policy coming from? Because it's pretty ridiculous when it comes from corporates, because it's so bad, it's so crazy, it's so weird. It's just some bits of truth where things are, but so wrong, in fact, everything. Yeah? And so greedy and avarice, it sounds like a good idea, but not to who's put that together, because they own the idea, and it's for their monopolization of all of us. And so those ideas, none of them are really proper, yeah? So does a document have a true verb in it? That's called is. Does a document have a true name in it? That's a real noun. That's not a pronoun. You can't have a legal name for it. And you can't just have legal fiction in any document. And does things add up, or is it just past syntax, meaning it's not describable, not definable? You see, smart contract today has to have things put more, so it's got proper verb in it, like a true verb, you see, and things such. And so shouldn't your ID be a real true name? Yes, it should, not any more legal fiction name. And what, you got a real true name, and that's just one word. It's not two words. How could two words be a noun? It's not. Two words is a pronoun, yeah? And you can't be a pronoun. And so the verb from is higher than of, and the verb of is higher than the verb bye-bye, which private companies can make bye-bye laws, and is it a bye-bye law that actually is what holds all hostage? Yes, it's definitely not from, which it should be, from, but from could never have such atrocity. Now, that's what's missing. You've got a corporation, when you mix it up with a living, that's called fascism. All governance that is such set up that way is completely an ism, and all isms are as evil as dog poop, But that's not evil. It just stinks. It's not right. Yeah, that's right.
Did you want to say
Yeah,
something
I
to
would
close out the
want
show?
to just say that all of us in the world, we should pay attention, because why should companies be supported where their technology is just being used to murder people right now, okay? So that's just so wrong, sorry. But also too, all the facial recognition and all that sort of stuff is all being used too, isn't it? Yes, it is. And so these things are being used for war and things. And so that's one thing that everybody should be aware of, and that's wrong. That would never come from you or I. Where people are made stateless, okay, that's a crime, okay? And so any nation that makes any other group of people stateless, that's an absolute crime beyond belief, whoever actually is behind it, yes? And so could we look at the Rohingya in Myanmar? And could we look and see 1 million people? And could peace be where people are vegetarian and others are meat eaters? It's like, how do these two people come together? It's like, maybe they need to have some boundary or some special condition or something. But in the Rakhine area of Myanmar, which used to be called Burma, it was some time ago that these people were all made stateless, and they've never been recognised when they should have wisely been, when there was a unification of Burma. But then where you've got warlords set up around the world, and how did that happen? And then you've got some government and things, and then what's going on there? How come they're not talking like they should about who's oppressed? The Rohingya are just horrifically being massacred, just the same as young boys, which is a genocide of particular people. And so nobody's going to say that's not a genocide of the white race that's going on in Ukraine, certainly, and Russia. It's been put there. And, what's the seed that's being annihilated more? And don't tell me that something is not behind that. And then people could say, oh, well, if you're Palestinian, what's the meaning of it? Is that just a name because your cousins are called something else? It's like, let's just relax about what stupidity exists where something is just funded itself by a monopoly. Okay? So get rid of the monopoly. Monopoly is wrong. It's got nothing to do with proper freedom, because there's no liberty for anyone, anywhere in the world where you have a monopoly, all right? It doesn't model anything in nature whatsoever. And so it's very destructive, actually, yes? And it does not support you and I to have cash, you and I to have freedom, you and I to have positive inductive currency, you and I to be behind what money is created and what the subject is that actually money is created for, and the asset as it's spent you and I have, because it's asset-backed currency. But it's positively inducted, yes, because you're the real estate. Can anybody else own the bank more than you? No, you cannot. Sorry, everybody owns it equally. And now you have a real bank, don't you? You see, but otherwise, no, you don't. But you better have a proper reset, and what's that? Zero out the debt. Get rid of this old system because it doesn't work. Bring sovereignty back in where things are, where each nation is to vote for currency, which what they want to, for the subject, which is necessary for them to be sustainable, and for peace and prosperity between nations. And so, we should really bless whoever it is, where people are, and would please to find the value for what's going on for themselves in their life, and don't pick up a polarized view about something, because you're going to burn lots of people's ears. But focus on unity consciousness, and people will be glad, yeah? Anyway, all of us, we could do what we can. We're living in a world where we've been all isolated from Google, being owned outright and chopping everything off censored-wise. How stupid. It's like obvious, yeah? It's just so COVID, it's unbelievable, you see? Anyway, we the people are the ones, and people should protect what exists. There's no, you should protect what exists, yeah, and should transform things towards what's better. So no hiccup is for people, but lives just get better, and that's how it's supposed to be. Anyway, that's our work about eclipse, getting rid of usury. Usury is the biggest sin, honest, and that's wrecked the world. And nobody's going to say it doesn't wreck someplace and then builds it up somewhere else. That's the story of usury. Nobody can uphold that anymore. It's way too costly to uphold still. Yeah. Anyway, well, we'll wrap things up, hey, Luke. Yeah. What might be just something that we wrap it up with?
I always was thinking, like, one day I really want to be able to make people feel like really powerful, like you do for me. Like they could, they can do something which, in the modern system they say you can't do it. They're like, oh, not people.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah, so inside what you said, so beautiful, like everybody's story is right there, what you said, because if I cannot no longer have any memory of what's desirable, I won't be controlled by what's desirable at all. I won't that come up into my consciousness because I don't care too much for whatever that is about. And so it's dropped. And so no clinging is to any bank of desire. And so no memory is of anything desirable, which is always the cause of people to want to desire more. And so, and the same with fear. So most in a life, in a river, which somebody could flow, you can't go against a current, but you go with the flow of life, and you just simply don't hold on to too long to any bank of desire or fear. And that just means stop having any memory of fear or desire, and you'll become more perfect detachment and eye-aware more. You'll notice that you have way more clarity, and maybe you'll be very productive with the things that you do where your life is. And you always will be thinking, what can I do to leave something behind that's endearing and enduring, and that will last forever, and that's something in I for all of us, and is for eternity. So why shouldn't people be focused more on things just like this and then become more eye-aware by being empty-centered and just simply having care? And so where someone says, I care, or even if they never said they cared, but you can hear care is, it's about care. And there's only one way you can interpret it. When someone says, I don't care, that's like, wow, somebody's crying out for love. And when somebody says they care, this is giving love. So there's only two ways that somebody could ever interpret anything, Lukey, basically, overall. Yeah. So anyway, we should look at the institutes that are formed, that are corporate, and how did that form from a monopoly and serving a monopoly, not any of us. And what's COVID is a bit obvious, isn't it? Yeah. And so it's just become so obvious, all of it. Yeah. So anyway, I think it's time for most people to wake up. All right, mate. Well, love you. Have a really great evening, what's left of it today. It's people listening to the tape. And we'll catch up to each other in another show, mate. Love you, mate.